What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. We've got the Ryder Cup this week, a little bit of a different format for you, but DraftKings is offering some pretty big contests, so I figured we would bring you a show for this week, and always fun to talk about the Ryder Cup when it rolls around every couple years, so we will do that here for you tonight. You've got myself, Justin Van Zuiden, alongside Mr. Notorious, Derek Farnsworth. And Noto, again, it always feels like it's been forever when we just take a week off on the golf calendar, but haven't been together for a couple weeks here. So how you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Usually don't love fall golf, but excited for this week. Ryder Cup's electric every time we get it, and back on U.S. soil. So hoping we can get that trophy back this year.
Yeah, we'll see if the U.S. can take it down. Usually, you wouldn't think that home course advantage would be all that important in golf. Some people might look at you funny if they aren't familiar with the Ryder Cup, but the crowds for these things are pretty electric, and home course advantage does tend to matter. If we go back to the 2023 Ryder Cup, you might remember the foursomes matches on Friday morning. So I don't remember what the final odds were, but the U.S. was certainly favored going into the Ryder Cup, and it was 4-0 Europe after the first set of matches, and it was 6.5 to 1.5 after the first day. They extended the lead Saturday morning, and then the U.S. tried to make a fight back, but the singles matches were dead even, and Europe ended up taking the trophy fairly comfortably when it was all said and done, thanks to getting that big lead in the very first set of matches. So the tone can be set early. We'll go through the format and how it works here for you in case you're not super familiar with how it works from a DFS perspective. But I just remember, going back 2 years ago, how shocking it was to see the U.S. fall behind 4-0 in those first four matches, and it's definitely something that was a bit of a shock.
Yeah, don't forget about Hatgate with Patrick Cantlay. Didn't want to wear a hat because he was protesting not getting paid for the Ryder Cup, and then something happened with Joe LaCava, who was caddy for Cantlay at the time, said something to Rory or got in his line. I can't remember what it was, but I've never seen Rory that heated. He was even yelling at Joe LaCava afterwards when he was trying to get in the car. The Ryder Cup just brings out a lot of emotion in people. And if you've seen any videos so far, Keegan Bradley is fired up.
What do you think, now that the dust has settled a little bit on his decision not to play?
Yeah, I think it's the right decision. I don't know how invested you can be as a coach when you're out there trying to win your own matches. So I thought it was a good decision. Obviously, it would have been fun to see him out there and do both. But this isn't like the President's Cup where we just expect the U.S. to kind of roll over and win. But I'm glad he stepped aside. What about you?
Yeah, I think so. I just think there's so much, especially in New York on home soil, just a lot of pressure if he were to be playing as well. So, and you don't have that, right? If he goes out there and is a playing captain and, gets absolutely destroyed with whoever as a partner in the first match, and then you've got that dominating all the headlines. I know it was an unpopular opinion at the time, but everyone seems to be moving past that now and just ready for the golf to start. It doesn't start till Friday, so you do have until Friday morning to set those lineups. The pairings for the first matches will be announced on Thursday late afternoon, so we'll get into that here in just a second. But how the format works is on Friday morning, there are 4 foursomes matches, which are alternate shot. And then Friday afternoon, there's 4 4-ball matches, which is each player plays their own ball, and you take the best score of each of the pairs. Saturday, the same pattern is repeated. Saturday morning, 4 alternate shot matches. Saturday afternoon, 4 4-ball matches, and then Sunday is singles, where all 12 players from each team will play. In the first sets of matches, there will only be 8 of the 12 players from each team on the course, so you'll have 4 players sitting out each time. So that's how the format works. So there's all told, right, 28 total matches So in theory, the final score could be anywhere from 28-0 to 0-28 to anything in between. If it finishes in a tie at 14-14, the team that won most recently gets to keep the Ryder Cup, so that would stay with Europe if that holds true at the end of the tournament. But the different styles of matches, you can have some conversations around that with the alternate shot versus the 4-ball matches and what players are better suited to that. But from a daily fantasy perspective, what makes it unique is trying to get the upside of players that are paired together. So, for example, in the Friday and Saturday matches, you're going to have duos, obviously, and sometimes the same duos will stay together and play 2 or 3 matches together Friday and Saturday. Sometimes, if they're not doing well, they'll be split up and they'll go with different pairings. So, on DraftKings, you've got basically the showdown type format where you have to choose a captain and then 5 other golfers to try to reduce the number of duplicates. So the questions become, how much stock do you put in guys that are paired together for those first matches that we're going to know before lineup lock who's paired together Friday morning. What about guys who aren't in the lineup at all for the first set of matches on Friday? Those guys tend to end up being a little bit lower owned. So those are some of the questions that just from a theory perspective, I think are interesting to talk about. Let's kind of address a couple of those before we start diving into the golfers here. Let's start with how much stock we're putting into the first pairings. And obviously Europe won the last time and they won pretty decisively. And you've got a lot of these same players, a good majority, I think all but one, maybe 10 or 11 of the same players, I think, on the Europe side that are going out there again. So what do you make of how much stock to put into those first matches that are announced?
Yeah, I tend to put a lot of stock into it. I don't play large field tournaments. There's always a path for somebody that doesn't play in the very first session to kind of get there. I think Max Homa did the year they played the President's Cup at Quail Hollow. But yeah, for the most part, you want to maximize the potential number of matches that you can have in your lineups. And to do that, you're going to want to play the guys that go out in the first session. Another question becomes, do you want to pair the guys that are playing together? Can you play guys against each other? And are you stacking teams or are you kind of doing more of a balanced lineup? So there's so much of a strategy angle that comes into it. Obviously, we can talk about everything now, but a lot of it's going to hinge on the pairings that come out because I don't want to take a guy that's, starting on the bench. Are you playing anybody that is not in that first session?
I certainly wouldn't do it in a single lineup build. A lot of times if I'm going for the higher dollar GPPs, I don't mind putting one guy in there, but it would be a max of one. So what I would do is I would go to lineup HQ and set groups, and the 8 guys that aren't playing in the first session, I put them all into a group and set a max of 1 on that. And I'd be fine playing one guy that's not playing in the first session, but no more than that. But I wouldn't do that if I was doing one entry. Maybe at 3 max, you pick one guy that's not playing, but it's tough. It's just tough to bank on it when you know for sure you're getting a match from these other guys. So, yeah, and the other interesting angle is, guys who are paired together. Certainly love that for GPPs, and it's a matter of we aren't going to have to try to predict who's going to be together for the first set of matches when they're announced on Thursday afternoon. But it seems like you've got some natural pairings, right? Scheffler and Henley played together at the President's Cup a lot and played pretty well. Seems like Scheffler and Henley are natural pairing for the U.S. Schauffele and Cantlay, we know they've played together a ton, though they haven't been as good the last couple of events. I've seen those two feel like the safest on the U.S. side. If you go back to the Pro Core a couple weeks ago, Morikawa and Harris English were together in the same group, which obviously those groups were probably not done on accident. So if you put Morikawa and English together, then you've got Justin Thomas, Ben Griffin, Bryson DeChambeau, and JJ Spawn, which I could see going either way. You could put JT and Bryson together. You could leave Griffin and Spawn on the bench. You could split those up. Just from a high level, that was my guess. Scheffler, Henley, Schauffele, Cantlay, Morikawa English, and then TBD on the other 4. But your thoughts on how Keegan might put these guys together?
Yeah, I think you're right. And the practice groups that went out today, Group A was Scheffler, Henley, English, Morikawa. So you got those.
I didn't even see these, so this is good.
Group C was Cantlay, Schauffele, and then Spawn, Burns. And then B was Cam Young, Griffin, Bryson, and JT for the American side. So, yeah, I think we're going to see definitely, Scheffler, Henley, and Cantlay, Schauffele. I think those are pretty much locked.
Those feel pretty safe. I think Morikawa English is pretty safe too.
Yeah, although, man, Morikawa has been so bad.
Yeah. TBD on those. And obviously, again, we're just trying to give you some content here to think about. These lineup, the first round pairings will be announced Thursday evening, I think at 5 or 6 p.m. local time. So you'll be able to maneuver those initial matchups before you actually have to set your lineups. On the European side, I think the European side is really interesting to try to break down as well. Again, they played really well last time. And I think there's some natural pairings here. McIlroy and Fleetwood have never lost together in the Ryder Cup. Hovland, you may remember from the last time, Hovland and Ludwig won like 9 and 7 against Scheffler and Koepka, I believe, in the last Ryder Cup. So Hovland and Ludwig feel like a pretty good combo. Rahm and Hatton played together and went 2-0 in the President's Cup. And then Lowry and Straka have played together a lot in the past too. That would leave, Bobby Mack, Matt Fitzpatrick, Justin Rose is some guys that you might not, know who they're getting paired with. But Lowry, Straka, Hovland, Ludwig, Hatton, Rahm, and McIlroy, Fleetwood seem like, I think we even those top 4 pairings might just be the ones the Europeans go with. Again, I have not yet looked at the practice sessions for today, so feel free to tell me I'm wrong if I missed those. But McIlroy, Fleetwood, Rahm, Hatton, Ludwig, Hovland, Lowry, Straka were the 4 that came to my mind.
Yeah, the only 2 that weren't paired together were Ludwig and Hovland. One other potential pairing that we could see, Rory and Lowry. They won the team event. They're both Irish. Right. They're really close friends. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that, whether it's the first day or, another session.
Yeah. And so a lot of it is, the first set of matches, these guys might all be together. And if they play well, maybe you keep them together. If they stink, maybe you blow it up. Some guys maybe play better in 4-ball, guys that are a little more volatile like Cam Young or Bryson, I would say are better with 4-ball formats. So, even if they're paired together in the first set of matches, doesn't mean it's going to stay like that the whole weekend. And that's part of what makes this a little bit tricky. And heck, you might even have the perfect lineup, right? You got 3 Americans, you got 3 Europeans, and they just do super well Friday and Saturday. And then you end up getting unlucky and you got 4 guys that are paired against each other in singles, which, is the luck of the draw sometimes. So anything else as far as potential pairings or strategy? What's on your mind?
Yeah, I think that's good. The only thing I wish the Ryder Cup would do would be where they have the captains announce their players one by one so that they can match up with each other like they do at the President's Cup. It's just such great drama. Remember when Abraham Answer called out Tiger and then Tiger smoked him?
Don't call out Tiger.
That was great. So I wish they still did that, or they would do that for the Sunday singles. But great event. Can't wait. My dad's going. A couple of my friends are going. I'll be watching from my couch.
Yeah, that's when brings me back to the famous video where before one of the match play, it was Stephen Amos, I think, called out Tiger and then lost like 10-8 or something.
Yeah.
In the match play, it's just don't call him out. Don't give him the bulletin board material. All right. Mentioned this is back on American soil, so Bethpage Black is your host course. May remember it. It's hosted Major Championship Golf before. Pretty long par 70 layout, almost 7,400 yards. Did see some posts today. It does look like the rough isn't super high. That doesn't surprise me, given the fact that the Americans have more of the bomb and gouge types. Maybe they're catering to that a little bit more. But in any case, this course is never a pushover. You've got 4 really long par 4s in a row right around the turn, and it's pretty difficult. So especially playing alternate shot, I think it'll be a test of patience for these guys. What else do we need to know about the course going into it here?
Yeah, I didn't dive too much into it just because so much of match play is on your opponent and your teammate. But like you mentioned, very difficult course, championship level course, should be a lot of fun. And they definitely aren't going to want long rough. They did that in the Mollywood year when Molinari and Fleetwood just stomped the U.S. team. They grew up the rough over there, narrowed the fairways. That just doesn't really suit the American style game right now. So, yeah, it's going to be bomb and gouge. But it'll be interesting to see, how much Bryson plays. That's kind of one of the more interesting stories for me.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see how that plays out through the course of the week. And all right, with that, let's dive into how we're going to approach a player pool of golfers. And again, we've got the captain spot to talk about on DraftKings. So your captain's going to cost you 1.5x salary. You get 1.5x fantasy points. The Scheffler salary multiplier becomes even higher in this setting. He's 17-1 on DraftKings as your captain. 10. Let's see, 17-1 as your captain, and 11-4 not as your captain. If I plug him into a DraftKings lineup as the captain, I have $6,580 per golfer to spend for the rest of my lineup. So a couple different angles here. How do you plan to approach Scheffler, and do you want to captain him or not? And then B, is it mandatory to play whoever Scheffler's paired with? Let's assume that's Henley for the sake of this discussion. Do you play Scheffler and Henley together, whether it's a single entry or what have you type of format?
Yeah, so obviously want to get as much exposure to Scheffler as I can. I don't think I can afford him at captain. I just don't like the way the rest of my lineup looks. So I like the idea of playing, assuming he plays with Henley, using Henley at captain. That way you get kind of double exposure to Scheffler without overpaying for him at the captain spot. So that's kind of the way I like to play. I do like pairing whoever Scheffler's going to be paired with, because then you just get double exposure. It's going to be popular, but man, it's hard to go against the guy right now.
Yeah, it is really tough to go against him, and then especially if he's paired with Henley. Like Henley is the 11th or 12th most expensive golfer, so he's right in the middle, and basically you're getting some Scheffler points for cheap if you put Henley in there as well. Obviously, the risk would be you play Scheffler and Henley together, they do terribly, and then they get split up, and Henley gets left in the dust for the rest of the week. But again, it's a lot of what ifs with the strategy with this. There are enough cheaper guys that I'm fine playing Scheffler even as your captain. You can play maybe one other top end guy, and still you can make it work at the bottom. So Scheffler is my guy. He's, let's see, the next most expensive American is Bryson after that. And for purposes of the rest of this discussion, I'm just going to use their regular salaries. Obviously know that the captain salaries are 1.5x whatever number I'm throwing out there, but Scheffler's 11.4, Bryson is 9,400, Schauffele is 8,600, Cantlay 82, Justin Thomas 78, Henley 76, and then we can get into the values from there. But let's talk about the team separately. I think it'd be a little bit easier to go through the discussion that way. So obviously we need to wait for the pairings, but that next group of Americans, say Bryson, Xander, Cantlay, JT, who would catch your eye, the most, assuming that they get a match in the first set?
Just given their record in the team events, Xander and Cantlay certainly look like a really good pairing, and you're not overpaying for them. 8,600, 8,200. I mean, we've seen them go, 4-0, 3-0 in team, and then I think they both won their singles in a couple President's Cups. So those are two guys that I'd probably go to next after Scheffler on the U.S. side. again, I don't know what to do with Bryson. He's a guy that obviously is not going to get tired, so he could go out there every single session. I just don't know how well he gels with the rest of the team. He was on the team the last time it was in America, and he was firing up the crowd. I saw him today. He was out there just trying to drive one of the greens. He hit like 15 tee shots trying to drive one of the greens, and the crowd was going crazy. So I don't know. You got to get him out there at least once a day, I think.
Yeah, I think he's better in 4-ball though. So I mean, I'm thinking that he might not be playing the first set of matches. Again, this is all theory at this point. But like, if Bryson doesn't play the first set of matches, nobody's going to play it. A lot fewer people are going to play him at that salary if he's not in the first set of matches. So like that would be your one-off. If you're building 50 lineups, like if not playing in the first session makes Bryson 5% owned, I think it's at least interesting for a multi-entry tournament approach. But if he's not out there the first set, it'd be super tough to throw him into, in a single entry or obviously a cash game ahead of Cantlay and Schauffele, who are both cheaper than he is.
Yep, I agree. So I got a little trivia for you since we got plenty of time. So I went and found all the match play records from the WGC, Dell, President's Cup, and Ryder Cup. Who do you think the top 3 guys are in terms of their points per match? So however many matches they played, and then however many points they've accrued in those matches.
Oh boy, the match play's been gone for so long that I don't recall. But so, Xander and Cantlay, I know they started something like 5-0 in their duo history, but I have no clue in terms of their match play history. But I feel like Cantlay got like 3rd place. I'm going to put Cantlay in there. I think he's up there.
Cantlay number 1. He's played 38 matches, 25.5 points for.
That's pretty good. I remember him getting pretty far in the match play once. Xander, I can't recall what his match play history is.
Number 4, pretty good.
He's number 4.
Number 2, a little surprising.
Are there any more Americans in this list?
One more in the top 3.
One more American.
This is the surprising one.
Thomas has been pretty good in the Ryder Cup. I'm going to go with Thomas.
Thomas is at 0.57, which is a little below average in the field. Sam Burns, 19 matches, 12.5 points.
Wouldn't have guessed that.
I would have never guessed that. And then Rory.
So is he 3rd then?
So Burns is 2, Rory's 3, Xander's 4.
Interesting.
These are all the first look if anybody wants to see them.
All right, good trivia there. So I think Cantlay is probably my second choice on the U.S. side after Scheffler. Obviously, you can put him and Schauffele together, assuming they're paired like we think they will be. Bryson, the wild card, we'll have to see if he gets out in that first set of matches. I think he's better with 4-ball, and they might just use him in the afternoon. But we'll see. Keegan might throw a surprise at us. You just never know. Got to pay attention to those first sets of matches when they come out on Thursday afternoon. Obviously, we've talked about Henley. Think he's going to be paired with Scheffler first set. He would be a pretty popular mid-range option if that comes to pass. Then the other American options, you've got Cam Young at 7,200, Sam Burns at 7,000, Morikawa is all the way down to 6,400, Ben Griffin is 5,800, JJ Spawn is 5,200, Harris English is 4,600 and is the cheapest American in the field. So if my prediction is correct that English and Morikawa play together, they're basically they're 2 of the 4 cheapest American options. Spawn, Griffin, you got some rookies in here. You got to assume that somebody's probably sitting out from this group the first set, but you got a flyer on a cheap US guy.
I love Henley. After that, I think Cam Young, definitely interesting. He's been so good. He's got 4 top 5s in his last 8 events, and he's actually been really good in match play too. 0.61 in points per match that he's played in 14 matches in his career. So he's a guy I might look to at 7,200. I kind of hope that English and Morikawa go out there day one because I think I'm going to fade them. English has been bad in match play, and the Morikawa has just been bad for 6 months now. So I'm kind of hoping they get out there, and then I can kind of be underweight on those 2 as maybe a way to get a little bit.
Are you saying you're rooting against the Americans?
I'm rooting for whoever's in my lineups. I am gonna bet Team USA just overall, but I can let a couple matches slide here and there.
For what it's worth, on DraftKings right now, to be the top USA point scorer, Harris English has the worst odds, the highest odds, however you want to look at it, plus 2,500. Spawn is plus 2,000. Burns is plus 1,900. Griffin plus 1,700. Morikawa same. Thomas plus 1,400. Cam Young plus 1,200. I don't think that's a terrible bet if he gets out in the first set of matches, him or Burns. Cantlay plus 900. Schauffele plus 900. Henley plus 800. Bryson plus 475. And Scotty plus 200. So for top USA point scorer only. Anything stand out to you in those?
I think Cantlay and Henley both interesting because they're worse odds than their projected first session partner, and then you kind of just hope that they win their singles and then the team gets
hot. Definitely will probably come down to how the singles matches play out there, assuming one team's going to get hot and win a few matches together, and they'll be tied in theory at that point if they stay together each of the first 4 sessions. All right. Anything else on the American side?
I think that is it for me. I will know JJ Spawn's been playing great, and he's played 4 matches and he's won 3 of them. So I don't know. I don't think he's ever played Ryder Cup or President's Cup, but that must be from the WGC Dell match play. So maybe he can get hot. He's kind of cheap too.
All right, let's move over to the European side where you've got, again, I think pretty logical pairings with the – I would be shocked. They aren't seriously going to not put Hovland and Ludwig together, are they? I was shocked when you said they weren't together today.
I just exited out of the thing. But, yeah, I don't know. The European team's all about not like – chemistry. They're all about analytics and who's going to hit the ball where. Like, they have everything down pat.
They beat Scheffler and Koepka 9 and 7. Nobody does that.
Maybe they have a new analytics point in another direction. I don't know.
Well, my guess was pretty certain it was going to be Ludwig, Hovland, Rahm, Hatton, McIlroy, Fleetwood, and Lowry, Straka as the first 8. They played so well last time. Like, they went was it 7-1 in the alternate shot matches with most of those groups. So to me, you don't mess with what worked when that won you the last cup, and if you do, you're just asking for second guessing, right? Nobody's gonna give you grief if you throw the same groups out there. But duly noted on going on the analytics there. So who knows? Pairings could be certainly wrong, but McIlroy Fleetwood would seem like your high end tandem for the Europeans. Rory's 10-2 on DraftKings. Rahm is 9,800, Fleetwood 8,800, Ludwig 8,400, Hovland 8,000, and Hatton 7,400 is your top half of the European team. What's standing out to you here, and how are you approaching your exposure?
Yeah, so I was going to say we should keep an eye on the practice groups for tomorrow too, and then because they're probably going to be a little bit different, so you're probably going to get some different combinations. You might see Ludwig and Hovland there, but for the European team, it's hard to fit Scheffler and Rory in the same lineups, so I'm kind of leaning Scheffler over him, and then just depending on who Rory's paired with day one, I'll probably have exposure to them. So if it's Lowry, I really like that. He's all the way down at 5,400. We've seen McIlroy kind of carry him in these team events in the past. And if it's Fleetwood, you can get just cheaper exposure to Rory through Fleetwood, who's been one of the best golfers in the world over the last 6 months. So that's kind of the way I'm approaching Rory. What about you? And then I don't know what to do with Rahm. He just feels like tough to get to.
Yeah, he is, especially if you're playing Scheffler. Like, if I do a lineup with, let me do this just to see how it works. Scheffler captain and McIlroy second. You got 56.75 per player, so it's very much doable to play Rory and Scheffler in the same lineup. You're probably going to have a lot of duplicates that do that, so maybe that's the type of lineup where you do play somebody at the bottom that isn't playing in the first set of matches if you're trying to make your lineup a little bit unique. But I definitely play McIlroy over Rahm or McIlroy's partner, like you mentioned. Good point in trying to get a little cheaper exposure to whoever he's paired with. Almost certainly going to be one of Fleetwood or Lowry, and all three of them were in that same practice group today. I did pull them up to confirm. And Scheffler came out with a quote that said he wants to play Hovland and Ludwig again. So maybe that's why they're scared by the Scotty quote of "I want to face them again," which probably wouldn't go over well for the Europeans. If motivated Scheffler is probably what you're trying to avoid. But I think the Rory pairing, Rory plus whoever he's with, makes the most sense. Probably going to be underweight Rahm. I tagged both Hovland and Ludwig, again, under the notion that they play together. If they don't, it depends. Both can score and have some distance. So I don't mind them individually, but might have to make some changes depending on who they're with. Hovland went out with Straka, Bobby Mack, and Højgaard today, and Ludwig went out with Fitz, Rahm, and Hatton. So I don't know. That's
Ludwig Rahm would be a pretty good team.
What's that?
So Ludwig and Rahm would be a pretty good team because I'm assuming Hatton and Fitz are together.
Yeah. So Ludwig and Rahm, and that would definitely be interesting for tournaments. If you probably wouldn't be able to play Rory in that scenario, but a lot of it's going to depend on how the groupings come out there. The cheaper side of the European squad. You've got Højgaard all the way at the bottom at the minimum 4K. Straka is 4,400, Rose 4,800, Lowry 5,400, who Noto just briefly touched on. Bobby Mack is 6K, Fitzpatrick 6,800. Look, you're probably gonna need one punt. I think if he's playing in the first session, particularly with Rory, Lowry will be the absolute chalk. Straka's been up and down this year, but at that salary, I think he'll get some attention if he starts the first set of matches. Like, this just feels like whoever happens to be out there in the first set of matches is going to get all the ownership, for better or worse. So I'm not sure how to play that. Again, with my group of maybe one guy that's not playing in the first set of matches, maybe you pivot away from the chalk, which I feel like it was Lowry last time. But it would be hard to go away from Lowry at 5,400 if he's out there with Rory in the first match.
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling Straka, Højgaard are going to be on the bench. And then we'll just see about everyone else. I mean, Justin Rose has been awesome in the Ryder Cups for a lot of years. You mentioned them winning the first day 4-0 at the last Ryder Cup, and it looked like the U.S. was going to take that last match, and then Rose just went nuts on the last couple of holes. The whole team jumped him on the 18th green when he made that long putt. So he's one of those team guys that could end up getting 2 or 3 starts in the team things. So I don't mind Rose at 4,800 if he's out there. Lowry again if he's paired with Rory, I like that. And then Bobby Mack, I mean, he's played a ton over here. He's had his best year on the PGA Tour, so he's more familiar in America than he was last time he played here. So I don't mind him. And then that Fitz Hatton combo, I really think that could do some damage. They're just two guys that are solid all around, and they've played well together in the past. So that's a combo that's cheap and kind of works in all roster constructions.
Yeah, Rose in alternate shot in the Ryder Cup in his history, 7-2-1. That's pretty good. So it will be interesting to see how they put those groups together for the first set of matches. And again, we could have just come on here and said, wait and see what they play for, Thursday afternoon announcements for matches and set your lineups then. But that wouldn't have been any fun to, give you guys good content. We try to theorize as best as we can right now about some of this stuff. I mentioned the odds for top American point scorer. As for the top European point scorer, you've got Rory at plus 300, Rahm at plus 400, Fleetwood at plus 450, Ludwig at plus 850, Hovland and Hatton at plus 1,000, Bobby Mack at 1,400, along with Fitzpatrick, Justin Rose at plus 2,000, Lowry at 2,200, Straka at 3,000, and Højgaard at 40-1. Anything stand out to you there pending the first set of matchups?
I mean, Ludwig at plus 800 is awfully interesting, whether he's paired with Hovland or especially if he's paired with Rahm. in that first day. He's one of those guys that he seems to play better as the fields get stronger, as the stakes get bigger. Like his track record of the majors is better than it is in crappy events. So he's a guy that I like at that number.
All right. So again, keep an eye out for those pairings to be posted on Thursday afternoon. If you are a premium subscriber at RotoGrinders, come check us out. We'll have some good stuff up. We're going to do a kind of a unique expert survey this week. I know Noto's putting an article out. We're going to have our tags in our lineup builder where you can set those. Super helpful for those rules this week of setting, I want to pair these guys together, or I only want to play one out of this group. Is super handy to have those tools available in our lineup HQ optimizer over at RotoGrinders. So anything else on the Ryder Cup before we duck out of here?
I think that's it. Should be a fun week. When do we come back?
I believe next week is the return of the fall swing. So we'll have a regular schedule throughout the month of October. It looks like there is an event 3 out of the 4 weeks in October. And then 3 events in November as well before the wintertime break. So we'll have 6 FedEx Cup fall events in October and November, and we'll be back to the regularly scheduled programming for those weeks. Sanderson Farms next week in Jackson, Mississippi. So we'll be back for that.
Sounds good.
All right. Good luck. Enjoy the Ryder Cup, everybody. Go Team USA. If you are so inclined to root for the U.S. guys, but always a fun tournament to follow, and we hope you all enjoy it. Thanks to Noto for joining me. Thanks to Steve, as always, for producing, working hard behind the scenes for us while he sweats out his Mets trying to make the playoffs. For Steve and Noto, I'm Justin. Hope you all have a great week, and we will catch you later, everybody.